Hi, my name is Lainey Dolphin and I run the Dream Interpretation Center here in Montreal. I'm going to tell you how to decode why you had that dream last night. And I'm going to do it in 5 easy steps. The first and most important thing I want to say to you is that we're problem solving in our dreams. And at the first level, the dream is always about something that you either thought about yesterday or something that happened to you yesterday. And what we do when we go to sleep at night is we test out different possible solutions to something very specific that's bugging us. And so the first goal of what we have to do to attach the dream to that very specific current issue, and then once we've done that, then we can look for what a solution looks like when it comes in the form of a picture. And that's because, of course, you figure out what you want to do about something that's bugging you, and it comes to you in your unconscious before it gets to your conscious. And the prize that you get for dream analysis is you get to propel your problem-solving skills. And so let's talk about the points of entry. I call them points of entry that you can use to try and attach your dream to that current issue that you're attempting to problem solve. And the first and easiest point of entry is the feelings. You ask yourself, how did I feel in the dream? Maybe you say, well, I felt scared. And then you come outside the dream. It's kind of like a dance. You're going in the dream, out of the dream. So you ask yourself, how did I feel? Well, I felt scared. So you ask yourself, what happened to me in the last few days that's making me feel afraid? Now the problem is you may not always get it because we are human beings and we're adept at hiding things from ourselves in our waking life. And so very often I will ask a dreamer, how did the dream make you feel? And the person will say, well, I felt scared. And then I'll say, well, what do you think is frightening you in your waking life? And they say, well, I don't feel frightened about anything. And so this act is exactly like doing a puzzle. You try one piece, that doesn't work, you try another. So another point of entry, if you're not in touch with the feelings, is to go for the action in the dream. And a great example of action is when you hear those people say, I had a dream and I was trying to run, but I was stuck, I couldn't run. And the natural question that you would ask to that comment is, what do you think is going on in your life right now? A situation that you're trying to run away from, and obviously the dream is telling you that you can't run away from that situation. Or another interesting example of that is, I was trying to speak and no sound came out. And then you'd want to ask yourself, well, is there something that you maybe need to say to somebody that you're not coming out with? Or maybe you did come out with something and you're really not feeling heard. The next point of entry is my personal favorite. It's called puns and play on words. And you know how we use puns constantly when we speak in our waking life? Your unconscious does the same exact thing, except it comes in the form of pictures. And one of my favorite examples of that is this fellow who dreamt about a man's body with a bird's head, and it was because he had been behaving lately like a real bird brain. And so you'll find that all the time. Or maybe I might say to you, I fell on the street, I slipped on the street yesterday and I was so embarrassed I thought I was going to die. Well, if you use that kind of language, then you might go to sleep at night and dream that you're dying, and it won't be because you're dying, it'll actually be because maybe you're processing the fact that you felt so embarrassed that you slipped. And so then another point of entry is the symbols. And with the symbols, you want to ask yourself very quickly, what are the first 2 or 3 things that come to my mind when I think about that person or place? And one example of that is I have a gentleman who's a client of mine who often uses New York City, and when you ask him what comes to your mind very quickly when you think of New York, he always says busy. And so he uses a city as a metaphor to say something to himself about himself, which is really what we're doing in our dreams. And finally, there's the plot. And so the plot is the same thing like we used to do in English class, where you want to look for the story behind the story. I had a young woman come to me just last week talking to me that she was trying to help her little girl take out a loose tooth, and she pulled out the tooth, and when she did, all the other teeth came out. And so there you're looking for a plot, and you always want to listen to the language of the dreamer. And that woman, when she was telling the story of the dream, she said, I was only trying to help. And so I took her language and repeated it back to her. What do you think has happened recently where you were just trying to help somebody and maybe you were trying to do one small thing and a lot of other things happened that made it go wrong? So if you tune into part 2 of this video, I'm going to give you an actual example of a dream and its meaning, so you'll get a really clear understanding of how to use these points of entry and how to propel your problem-solving skills. And you can find me at dreamsdocometrue.ca.